Hi, I'm going to talk to you about section 4.1, which is the very first lesson for business math. And to begin with, we're going to talk about the financial calculator. Now, I have a picture of the financial calculator. It's not one that I can actually do anything with, but I'm just to show you. So when you're going to work with your calculator at this point in the class, you want to have it set on what we call floating decimal mode, which would be 9 decimal places, in order to get your calculator set up right, because it comes from the factory basically in a 2 decimal mode. And so to set this up, you press the second key, which is this yellow key right here, and then you press your decimal key, and you'll notice right above the decimal it says format. So second, format, and then on your screen it's going to look like this. So you'll see decimal equals 2.00, and then from there you can type in a 9. So then type 9 and press the enter key. Now that is not the equals key. You'll notice that at the top of your calculator right here you're going to have a key that says enter, and it's important when you're using anything where you're formatting something on the calculator that you use the enter key. All right, so go ahead and set your calculators on 9 decimal places, because you're going to need that for some of these. You don't want it rounding it to just 2 decimal places, because we're actually going to practice some rounding ourselves. Okay, so to convert decimals to percents, you just move your decimal point 2 places to the right. This is the same as multiplying by 100. Now remember, as you work your way through these videos, you can always pause. So once I show you a question or two, you may want to pause and then try it on your own. So when we're looking at this, remember we're going to move the decimal 2 places, and then we're going to put the percent sign. Don't forget that percent symbol, because it says to convert these decimal values to percent values. Now, percent values also have some decimal places, but unless you write it the correct way, they would not be equivalent. So on this first one, 0.58, that will be 58%, right? We move the decimal 2 places to the right. If you multiply 0.58 on your calculator, then you will get a 58, and then you have to know to put the percent symbol on there. And a lot of times students ask me about this 0 in front of the decimal place. That's just to indicate that what the number there is a 0. So if you leave it off, I'm okay with that. But for myself, I always put that number. And then on this one, if I move the decimal, I've seen students do this, right? 2 places to the right, that would be a 4.7. And then don't forget to put your percent. The next one's a little weird, because if I move it 2 places, notice there's nothing there. So I actually have to add in a 0 in order to write this correctly, and this would be 130%. Actually, the whole number 1 is 100%. So if you go above 1, you're going to be over 100% every time. This next one is a super small percent. This might be the amount you might earn on your savings account these days, because it's very low. Just a little joke there. And so we're going to take this decimal and move it 2 places to the right, which leaves it at the 0.72. So that's going to be 0.72%. All right, so that was some converting decimals to percents. And then the next one would be move the decimal point, converting percents to decimals, so we kind of go backward from what we were just doing. We're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left, or divide by 100. And then we also have to work with some fractions and different things here. So you notice that I put a 1/2, a 42 and 1/2, and a 13 and 5/8%. So I just paused the video and put my dogs outside because I'm at home working on this, and they are barking and being silly. Okay, so where were we? We were converting percents to decimals. So let's just look at this first one, 9.75%. We basically go backward from what we did on the previous slide. So this is going to be 0.0975. And we remove the percent symbol because now we've written the decimal equivalent to the 9.75%. And if you do calculations in this class, you will always be calculating with that decimal number. On the next one, and it kind of explains this up here on the converting percents to decimals, so you can take a look at that and write that in your notes. Don't forget to take some notes when you're working through these videos. It will be important on the learning for you to actually have some notes of what you learned. On the next one, before I can even convert this to the decimal, I need to know what 1/2 would be in decimal form. And I think most people know that. You just take the 1, divide it by 2, and you're going to get 0.5, right? 0.5. So this is actually 42.5%. We're still in percent mode, notice. And then I'm going to write that in decimal form, which means I move my decimal 2 places to the left, or just put 42.5 on your calculator, divide it by 100, so my decimal will be 0.425. And we've converted that. Now on the next one, we're going to convert 5/8 to the decimal first, and then we will go from there. So 5 divided by 8 is 0.875. I believe I'm double checking my, no, 0.625. 7/8 is 0.875. And then I'm going to write this as 13.625. And that is still a percent, you guys. A lot of times students get confused and they just write the 0.625. They take the percent symbol off and say, I'm done. But you're not done, because this is still a percent. Notice the 5/8 was changed to 0.625, so we're still in percent mode. As a decimal, it will be 0.13625, right? Because that decimal has to move 2 places to the left. All right. So on these, we start with a fraction, right? Converting fractions to percents. Well, first we convert the fraction to a decimal, and then we convert the decimal to the percent by moving our decimal 2 places to the right or multiplying by 100, and of course then we put the percent symbol. So if you take 1 divided by 5 on your calculator, it is going to say 0.2. Now that is the same thing as 0.20, and so when we change this to the percent, it's going to be 20% when we move the decimal 2 places to the right. Remember, you're going to have to put that 0 in there. 7 divided by 16 is 0.4375. As a percent, that would be 43.75. Because remember, we moved that decimal 1-2 times to get the decimal in the correct place for going from decimal to percent, and then don't forget to put your percent symbol. When we take 5 divided by 4, I'll write that out, I haven't been writing that. 5 divided by 4 is 1.25. Well, that's our decimal number now, and then as a percent, that's going to be 125%. So now we have that converted to our percent. Let's see. Okay, rounding. So I'm going to stop this video, and then I'm going to start the next video on rounding. So we'll have 2 separate videos here, and I'll see you on the next one.